Hello, everybody out there watching today's Science Center stream. It's 3:30. You all know what that means. It means it's time to do some witchcraft. Wait, no, this is physics. Same difference. This here that we have today, it's a Van de Graaff generator. And as you can see, it's generating a huge electrical charge on top of this strange looking device that is charging up this wig here and creating a very interesting looking Einstein hair. And if I don't know if you can see on the camera, can you see Einstein back there?
He's obscured by the massive pile of hair.
Right, but here I can show you how this difference in charge like this allows me to almost like have the force here. And then as I build up a charge, I can bring this metal thing, which is carrying the other half of the charge, and I'll explain this more in a second, and discharge, completing that circuit. So, I'm going to shut this thing off here, and discharge it here, and we can talk a little bit about what's going on here. So, this interesting device here is called a Van de Graaff generator. And so what a Van de Graaff generator does is, if you'll see, moving through this center part, this is like a rubber nylon belt. And this thing is rotating really fast, and it's picking up electrons, which are like little charged particles, the things that make up electricity. It's picking them up here at the top and carrying them down. It's like they're hitching a ride on this kind of sticky tape, basically, and coming down. And they're bringing a bunch of negative charge, a bunch of electrons essentially, and charging up this wand that I'm holding here, and making this big kind of metal globe up here accumulate a lot of positive charge. And so this kind of relates to kind of give you something to think about in relation to it, is magnets. So with magnets, you have two poles, and I'll come up here and show it off. So, can you see these? Can you make out the...
Yep.
Yeah. So you got the north-north, right? Those are the same pole, and they're repelling each other. When I try to put them together, they kind of deflect away from each other. But when I switch it around and have north-south, like this, they'll just stick right together like that. But if they're north-north, well, can't do anything. And so, just like magnets, electricity works the same way. It has positive and negative polarity. So what I'm doing is, like that north and south, I'm building up negative on this wand when I turn this on, and positive charge on this bulb. And then they're making like a circuit of static electricity. So then, if I get this going, charging up, and you might see Einstein's hair sort of kind of get a little more intriguing here, getting the charge. What'll happen is it'll build up enough charge that it can jump across this gap. And I don't know, can you see on the camera that blue spark?
Whenever they're big enough to see it, my monitor flashes.
Yeah. So you can kind of see those going. And so, however, when I complete this circuit and there's no gap to jump over, it doesn't make that. But when I separate them, that's when it makes those jumps. And that's the sign of the building up of voltage, of current, what I should say, potential. And so to kind of show this a little more clearly, I have another little apparatus that I'll set up here. And so what I'm doing is I'm grounding this, so I'm giving it a spot for all the electricity to flow out of through this wire. And then I'm taking this over here and putting it like that, and I'll set this like this, and hopefully you should be able to see some kind of interesting sparks. And you'll notice, because electricity moves at the speed of light, that hopefully you should see anytime a spark happens up here, between here, the spark should complete the circuit at basically the exact same time on here, and we should see kind of an interesting little looking jump here. So we'll get this thing fired up here. Flashing. I can feel it shocking me a little. So this is carrying that charge through the circuit and onto here, and also into me a little bit. So I'm probably gonna stop that. But this kind of stuff happens in the real world too. Charge accumulation, such as this. Basically, a bunch of electricity building up statically, static electricity, charging up a thing. And so what we have here is it's essentially a hailstorm. So we can imagine as the wind blows around all of these ice particles, they're all moving around much in the same way and getting charges pulled from each other much in the same way that the Van de Graaff generator works. And so if I fire this up, we should start to see a hailstorm happen. And then, if I bring this up here, you can't really see it, but it is discharging out the top here. And that kind of makes an explanation of like, why is it that we have lightning storms? How can rain generate electricity? Well, it's like this. All these little particles flying around. And you can see now, they'll all drop. If I touch it here and I lower that charge, they'll all kind of settle down, but if I separate it out, then they'll start flying around again. And if I discharge it, jump in that gap like that, they'll all drop. So, we'll discharge this here, and look at another little apparatus that we have. And this might be a little easier to see on the camera. And what this is going to show us is the changing of positive and negative charge. So, see if you can figure out how that works here as I start this up. So, all of a sudden this thing kind of, I try to bring it in here and it's getting repelled. It can almost like orbit, fly around. And it's as if by magic it's bumping around like this. There's nothing in the air. But what's happening is, this is accumulating a positive charge, the tinfoil ball, just like the globe, getting repelled, and it goes out into the air and it discharges some of that positive charge, and then it's attracted again. And it'll see, and then it becomes sort of like a pendulum, except it touches nothing. It's all as if it's by the force or something. So, kind of an interesting little demonstration on the Van de Graaff generator. And as the final thing here, I'm going to try my best to make my own hair stand up. And hopefully I don't shock myself too bad, but if I do, so be it. Alright, so I'm going to step up here and put my hand on this right here. And even though this is making these big sparks, because that's just high voltage and not high current, I shouldn't have to worry about getting shocked or hurt here. I might get a little shocked just because, but we'll see. Let's see if I can get my hair to stand up here. I can feel as I'm holding here, I can feel the ozone, I can feel my whole body being charged here. It's a very strange experience. Can you see it? It's going up high? Yeah, I'm floofing right now. But as soon as I step onto the ground and ground myself, as soon as there's a place for all this charge that I'm holding to drain into the earth essentially, then they'll all go down. So I'm going to shut this thing off. Woo!
Completed the circuit.
I completed the circuit and gave myself a couple of good little sparks there. So, with all of that in mind, I think that I've given my my old heart enough jumps today. So we'll probably call it there. But if you ever have any questions, or you want to talk about electricity, or take a look at the Van de Graaff generator, or any of the fun stuff that we have down here, just know that we're open 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, from 9:30 to 5, and we're open Sundays from